Today's video will compare Thor's Rune King form with the god of symbiotes, Knull. But before we start, let me know in the comments which version of Thor Knull defeated in the comics if you know. If not, you'll get the answer by the end of the video. First, let's talk about Rune King Thor. This version of Thor completely changed his destiny and his future. Rune King Thor literally reached the level of an elder god from being just a simple god after gaining the powers of the runes and the Odin Force. If you're unaware of Elder God and Skyfather levels in Marvel Comics' power hierarchy, here's a quick rundown. The normal version of Thor is simply a god, while Odin is a Skyfather level character. Elder gods like Gaia and Thon, the original gods of Earth, are even more powerful than Odin. Elder gods are much stronger than both normal gods and Skyfathers, and in his Rune King form, Thor managed to reach the power level of an elder god. To stop Ragnarok, Thor first sacrificed both his eyes, which gave him the power of the runes. In simple terms, the runes are Asgardian magic that allowed him to see the past, present, and future simultaneously. Thor could feel the events from the beginning to the end, making him almost omniscient, an all-knowing being. After Odin's death, Thor also gained the Odin Force, Odin's cosmic energy, which gave him the power to destroy and create galaxies. After both of these power upgrades, Thor became Rune King Thor. With the power of the runes, Thor could erase a powerful being like Mangog from reality with just one spell. Mangog is the same being who had destroyed gods multiple times, and even Odin feared him. Mangog was filled with the hatred of 1 billion souls, making him nearly impossible to defeat, even for Odin. But Rune King Thor erased him from existence with just a gesture, as if he never existed. Rune King Thor could teleport anywhere at will and possessed life manipulation powers, enabling him to keep Loki's head alive even without his body. Rune King Thor was also able to break Asgard's defenses with a single blast, a feat even Surtur couldn't accomplish. He even managed to cheat death, although he needed Odin's help in that situation. But his greatest feat was stopping those who sit above in shadow. Rune King Thor was able to intimidate and defeat these celestial beings. Those who sit above in shadow were mystical beings who were essentially gods to gods like Odin and survived on the life energy of the Asgardians. Odin specifically prepared Rune King Thor to stop these beings, as he himself couldn't stand against them. These beings were so afraid of Rune King Thor's powers that they even offered him their position. But Rune King Thor eventually destroyed their connection to the cycle of Asgard and defeated them. Now, those who sit above in shadow are sometimes described as celestial beings and have been compared to the Beyonders in some contexts. But their true power levels are still unclear. However, it's evident that those beings were extremely powerful. The shadows were immensely powerful. Rune King Thor destroyed Loom of Fate and the entire World Tree to defeat those who sit above in shadow. And after fulfilling his destiny, he merged with the universe. Now let's talk about the king in black, Knull. Knull is a character who existed even before the 7th iteration of the universe, ruling over a vast kingdom of darkness. However, when the Celestials began creating stars and galaxies within his realm of darkness, Knull grew angry, feeling that his kingdom was being destroyed. In retaliation, he fought the Celestials and created his first weapon, all black, the Necrosword. Knull then created the symbiote species from his darkness, intending to use them to take revenge on the Celestials and plunge the universe back into darkness. He defeated Silver Surfer first and then arrived on Earth, where he quickly took control. He ripped apart Sentry, one of Earth's strongest heroes, in seconds and absorbed the Void into himself. Knull also defeated All-Father Thor. Yes, Thor did manage to break Knull's jaw with a single hit, but afterward, Knull used his powers of necrology. On Earth, Knull's army included not only symbiote dragons, but also some Celestials, as he learned to control them and added them to his army. The Avengers eventually exploited one of Knull's weaknesses, Captain Universe. By merging with Venom, Captain Universe used his light-based powers to defeat Knull. So, who is more powerful between Rune King Thor and Knull? Let's explore. Knull and Thor have a long-standing connection. When Knull first created the symbiote dragons, Thor was the one who defeated the two most powerful symbiote dragons, Grendel and Grendel's mother, with his lightning. Thor's divine lightning was so powerful that it broke Knull's connection with his creations. Knull typically remains mentally connected to his symbiotes and can control them at any time. But Thor's lightning was strong enough to sever this connection. This was when the symbiotes started to rebel and eventually evolved to beings like Gorr, who could defeat even 3 versions of Thor, including Old King Thor. But could Knull defeat Rune King Thor? Let's analyze. Both characters have been shown only briefly in comics, with limited feats for each. Knull's greatest feat includes killing a Celestial and controlling some Celestials using his symbiote powers. His most powerful weapon, the Necrosword, which he acquired by defeating a Celestial, allowed him to manipulate death itself. On the other hand, Rune King Thor's greatest feat is confronting and defeating those who sit above in shadow, beings of celestial power who once created the Asgardians, much like the Celestials created other planets and solar systems. The biggest difference between Knull and Rune King Thor is that Knull was overpowered by 2 or 3 Celestials. Yes, while Knull managed to kill some Celestials, eventually 2 Celestials were able to defeat him. Meanwhile, in Rune King Thor's case, those who sit above in shadow offered him a place among them because they were frightened by his power. And I'm not just talking about 2 or 3 Celestials. There were about 8 to 10 of those who sit above in shadow, powerful celestial beings. When Rune King Thor refused their offer, he broke their connection to Asgard. Now consider this. If those who sit above in shadow had wanted to stop Rune King Thor, they could have tried, but they didn't. Possibly because they knew he was powerful enough to defeat them. On one side, we have Rune King Thor, who instilled fear in celestial beings, and on the other, we have Knull, who was defeated by Celestials. And yes, the true origin of those who sit above in shadow is still unknown. They could be even more powerful than the Celestials because Loki once referred to them as Beyonders. They exist outside of reality in a similar way that Knull does. Talking about other powers, Knull has his symbiotes and Necrosword, while Rune King Thor, with his Odin Force and Asgardian magic, managed to erase a being filled with the anger of an entire galaxy, Mangog, with just one spell. Mangog had the potential to destroy galaxies, yet Rune King Thor erased him effortlessly. This shows that Rune King Thor could easily handle Knull's symbiotes. Even the normal version of Thor had already defeated Grendel, one of the top 5 most powerful symbiotes, in his base form. So, Rune King Thor would likely have the upper hand in handling Knull and his symbiotes. Rune King Thor's lightning could potentially disrupt Knull's connection with his symbiotes, making Knull's Necrosword less effective. It's worth noting that Knull's feats in the comics don't quite match up to the hype surrounding him. For instance, while he begins an attack across the universe, he's ultimately stopped on Earth due to his weakness to Captain Universe, also known as the Enigma Force, which I haven't even fully discussed here. In comparison, Rune King Thor has better feats, more powerful abilities, and Knull's inconsistencies make it seem likely that Rune King Thor is indeed more powerful. But what do you think? Share your opinion in the comments. As for the question I asked at the start of the video, the answer is All-Father Thor. Knull defeated All-Father Thor in the comics, who is significantly weaker than Rune King Thor. Let us know in the comments and feel free to enjoy our other video, Superman vs. Sentry.